Have you ever imagined what it would be like to fall in love with someone who hides the biggest secret of his life? Tariq seemed like just a mysterious man wandering the streets of Ankara, but his truth is bigger than Aline could dream. He is the crown prince of a kingdom distant. Now, she finds herself in a battle of love against age-old traditions, promised brides, and a throne that threatens to swallow everything they have. And when an unexpected twist emerges, two hearts growing inside her, everything changes. Will their love be strong enough to challenge a kingdom, or will he be crushed by the impositions of an ancestral throne? Get ready for a story where love is not just a choice, but the fight for freedom. Their fate hangs in the balance, and you don't want to miss the story unfolding. Aline Vasconcelos walked through the streets of Ankara, the sun shining brightly on the red roofs and crowded markets. She adjusted the camera, trying to capture the essence of that moment, the vibrant sounds of Turkish conversations and the aroma of spices mixed in the air, creating a unique energy. It was her first time in Turkey, and she wanted to take it all in. As he turned a corner, he bumped into a man. The impact caused a bag of fruit he was carrying to fall to the ground, scattering oranges everywhere. "Sorry, I was distracted," she said quickly, bending down to collect the fruit. "No problem," replied the man with a calm tone and a deep voice. He helped her gather the fruit, his dark eyes fixed on her. When their hands touched, Aline noticed something different, a mix of curiosity and intensity in the way he looked at her. "You don't look like you're from here," he commented with a slight smile, handing over the last orange. "And you seem to be hiding something," Aline replied jokingly, but without hiding her own curiosity. The man smiled, but did not respond. He was tall, with strong features and a posture that conveyed a strange authority. Still, there was something intriguing about its simplicity in that moment. "I'm Aline," she said, extending her hand. "And you?" "Tariq," he replied, holding her hand for a moment before letting go. Aline felt a slight uneasiness when she observed the way Tariq looked around, as if he was always paying attention to something or someone. He looked out of place there, even though it was obvious he knew his surroundings well. "Are you running away from something?" she asked, half joking, half serious. Tariq gave a short laugh and shook his head. "Maybe, or maybe you're just trying to find me," he replied before changing the subject. "Do you know the city well?" "I just arrived. I'm exploring on my own," said Aline. "In that case, let me show you something special," Tariq offered. "I promise it's nothing a tour guide can show." Aline hesitated for a moment, but there was something about Tariq that made her want to accept. "Okay, but if this is an ambush, let me know that I have a blue belt in jiu-jitsu," she joked. "Blue belt? Impressive. I'll be careful," he replied with a smile. They walked together through the cobblestone streets as Tariq guided her to a quieter corner of the city. He pointed out little curiosities, like a hidden courtyard where children played, or a carpet store with centuries of history. Aline began to wonder who exactly that man was. He spoke passionately about the city, but maintained an aura of mystery. When they finally reached a small, secluded square, Tariq stopped and turned to her. "Sometimes the best moments are the simplest," he said, pointing to a traditional cafe in the corner of the square. "Here, time seems to stop." Aline looked around, absorbing the beauty of the place. It was peaceful, different from the hustle and bustle of the main streets. But before he could thank Tariq, he looked at his watch, and his face changed. "I have to go now," he said hurriedly. "But it was a pleasure meeting you, Aline." Without leaving time for questions, Tariq turned and began to walk away. Aline tried to call him, but he already disappeared between the narrow alleys, leaving her alone in the square. She stood there for a moment, intrigued and not knowing what to think. Something about that brief interaction seemed to be the beginning of something much bigger than she could imagine. Days have passed since meeting Tariq, but Aline couldn't get him out of her head. As he walked along Ankara's main avenue, he felt a familiar presence. When he turned around, there he was, standing still, with a slight smile. "I thought I'd never see you again," said Aline, crossing her arms. "Do you always disappear like this?" "Let's say I'm good at avoiding complicated situations," he replied, approaching. "But today, I want to invite you to something special." "And why would I accept it?" Aline asked, defiantly. Tariq kept his smile, but his look became serious. "Because taking risks can take you to places you never imagined." Aline hesitated. Despite everything, something about him intrigued her. "Okay, but tell me, what's the plan?" "Come with me," replied Tariq, extending his hand. Reluctantly, she accepted. They took a taxi, and Tariq gave her directions in a language she didn't understand. The urban landscape gave way to rolling hills and open fields. Aline was restless. "You still haven't told me where we're going," he said, crossing his arms. "It's a surprise," he replied, looking out the window. The taxi stopped in front of ornate gates. Guards cleared the way after an exchange of words with Tariq. When they arrived at the patio, Aline was impressed. "What is this place?" "My house, or something close to it," he replied. Before Aline could question, a well-dressed man approached and bowed. "Dinner is ready, sir." Aline turned around, suspicious. "You're not who you say you are you?" Tariq looked away. "I promise to explain everything, but today I want you to just enjoy what tonight has to offer." As she explored the opulent interior, Aline felt out of place. "I don't think I belong there," she said. "Maybe you belong to places you haven't yet discovered," Tariq replied enigmatically. During dinner, he asked questions about his life, but revealed little about himself. Aline, intrigued, knew she was just scratching the surface of the mystery of Tariq al-Mansur. Aline watched Tariq from a distance, feeling increasingly intrigued. He was standing on the terrace, looking at the horizon as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Determined to better understand this mysterious man, she approached slowly. "You brought me here, but you're still a mystery to me," she said, trying to hide the tension in her voice. Tariq turned his face to her, his expression serious. "Not all mysteries need to be solved immediately," he replied, looking back into space. "Maybe, but I don't like feeling in the dark," replied Aline, crossing her arms. Tariq sighed, as if pondering for a moment before speaking. "I am Tariq al-Mansur, heir to the throne of al-Zahir. This estate is a refuge, away from the responsibilities that come with my name." Aline blinked, processing the information. "So you're a prince?" "Something like that," he replied with a melancholy smile. "But my title is not a gift. It is a burden. Everything I do is decided by others, including the marriage they expect me to accept." Aline's eyes widened in surprise. "Marriage?" "Yes," Tariq said, keeping his voice calm but not hiding his bitterness. "My family has already chosen someone for me. Layla, a princess from the north. That's how we maintain alliances." Aline's shock soon gave way to a mixture of disbelief and empathy. "And you accept that? You don't try to fight?" Tariq laughed softly, but the sound was empty. "Fighting against such ancient traditions is like trying to change the course of the wind," he replied, shaking his head. "I just want to breathe for a while." "Is that why you brought me here?" Aline asked, her voice firm now. He hesitated before answering, as if choosing his words carefully. "Maybe, or maybe because for the first time I met someone who doesn't see me as a title. Someone who doesn't want anything from me other than who I am." Aline felt a mixture of confusion and discomfort. There was a raw sincerity in his words, something she didn't know how to process. "Tariq, This is a lot to take in. I don't know what you expect from me, but I need time to understand it all. Tariq nodded slowly, respecting his position. I won't pressure you, Aline, but know that being here with you is the only thing that has made me feel alive in a long time. She watched him for a few moments, trying to decipher what that meant for him and for herself. Living shouldn't be so complicated, she murmured, more to herself than to him. Tariq smiled slightly, but his gaze remained dark. Maybe for you it's simple, but for me, every decision carries the weight of an entire kingdom. The silence between them stretched, filled only by the soft sound of the wind and birds in the distance. As much as she wanted to offer something that would ease Tariq's pain, Aline knew he needed to fight this battle alone. Whatever you're facing, I hope you find a way to break free, she said sincerely. Tariq gave a half smile, but didn't respond. Instead, he turned back to the horizon, as if looking for something only he could see. Aline remained by his side for a few more minutes before returning to the property, leaving Tariq alone with his thoughts. Aline felt the world spin around her when she saw the results of the pregnancy test. The paper in his hand trembled, as did his thoughts, which raced over and over again. Pregnant, and it was no ordinary pregnancy. She was expecting twins. Tariq needed to know. Days later, Aline found herself back at Tariq's property in Al-Zahir. She had been hesitant about taking this trip, but she knew she couldn't hide it from him. When she arrived, she was received with the same grandeur that had impressed her the first time, but there was something different in the air, an atmosphere of tension. Layla was there. The princess looked at her from top to bottom, her eyes cold and full of disdain. You shouldn't be here, Layla said coldly. This place isn't for people like you. Aline took a deep breath, ignoring the provocation. I came to talk to Tariq. It's an important matter, she replied, remaining calm. And what would make you think you have any right to him? Layla took a step forward, crossing her arms. Tariq is my fiancé. Our future has already been decided. Aline felt anger boil in her veins, but she didn't lose her composure. I'm not interested in the throne, nor in traditions, but Tariq has the right to know that he's going to be a father. Layla hesitated, surprise crossing her face for a brief moment before being replaced by contempt. Father, do you think this changes anything? Tariq knows where his duty lies, and it's not with you. Before Aline could respond, the door opened and Tariq entered the room. His eyes flicked from Layla to Aline, and he immediately realized that something was wrong. Aline, what's going on? We need to talk, she said, ignoring Layla's withering look. Tariq nodded, leading Aline to a private room. When the door closed, he turned to her, his expression worried. What happened? You seem nervous. Aline took a deep breath, trying to gather her courage. Tariq, I'm pregnant. They're twins. The silence that followed was overwhelming. Tariq ran a hand through his hair, absorbing the news. His eyes fixed on Aline's, full of conflicting emotions, surprise, fear, and something that seemed to be happiness. I don't know what to say, he finally admitted. I don't want anything from you, Tariq. I just thought you should know, Aline said, feeling the tears build up. Tariq approached, placing his hands on her shoulders. Aline, you're wrong. This changes everything. You and these kids. You're the only thing that matters now. Aline shook her head, still uncertain. What about Layla? What about your family? They won't accept this, Tariq. He sighed deeply. My life has always been about what other people want. But now, I need to decide what I want, and I want to be with you. Aline felt a twinge of hope, but the weight of Layla's words still hung over her. I knew the path would be difficult, but for the first time I saw a spark of possibility on the horizon. The main hall of the palace was filled with silence. Tariq, dressed in formal attire, stood like a statue in the center of the room. Facing him, Sultan Ibrahim stared at him with a stern look. Layla sat on the right, motionless, but her eyes burning with anger. Aline, positioned in a corner of the room, watched everything with her heart racing. "So it's true," said the Sultan, his voice full of disappointment. "You brought this woman to the palace, knowing that it would compromise our name and our traditions?" Tariq maintained his firm stance. "Yes, Dad, because it's time to stop pretending that my life belongs to someone else. I made my choice, and it's Aline." The Sultan slowly stood up, tension growing with each movement. "You choose to destroy centuries of alliance for what? On a whim?" Tariq shook his head. "It's not a whim. It's love, something you taught me to ignore, but that I can no longer deny." Layla stood up abruptly, her fists clenched. "Love? You're throwing your responsibility away for someone who doesn't even belong to our world." "And that's why I chose Aline," replied Tariq, "because she showed me something that no title or tradition could give me, freedom to be who I am." Silence fell again. The Sultan looked at Tariq with a mixture of fury and perhaps a touch of respect. He walked over to Aline, who shrank slightly under his piercing gaze. "You understand what that means, don't you?" he asked. "Entering this world will not be easy. Everyone will judge you, observe you, and test you at every step." Aline raised her chin, facing the Sultan with the same courage she had always had. "I want nothing from you or your throne, but I want Tariq to be happy. And most of all, I want to raise our children with dignity." The Sultan remained motionless for a moment, then let out a long sigh. "Very well. If that's what you want, Tariq, I won't stop you anymore. But know that this decision will have consequences." Tariq nodded. "I accept the consequences, Father, as long as it's with Aline." Layla left the room without saying anything else, and the Sultan returned to his seat, visibly tired. Hours later, Tariq and Aline were on the terrace, watching the stars. "I can't believe he agreed," said Aline, still in disbelief. "He didn't exactly agree," replied Tariq with a tired smile. "But for the first time, he listened to me." Aline intertwined her fingers with his. "What happens now?" Tariq looked her in the eyes, his expression full of determination. "Now, we build our life. Together." And then, as the palace lights went out, a new journey began for Tariq and Aline, marked by challenges, but also by the promise of true and lasting love.